Step number 3, what you need to do in order to make sure you are able to answer questions in an articulate, in a clear, in a focused manner, you need to practice answering questions, interview questions, okay? The best way to do that, I suggest, is that you actually stand in front of a mirror and practice answering questions. Look at yourself and practice answering questions, okay? Now, what type of questions do they ask in an interview? Well, they ask all sorts of questions in an interview, right? It can be as simple as, well, tell me about yourself. That is the most simple question anyone can ask you, but can I tell you that is the most difficult question for many people to even answer, because we are just not used to talking about ourselves, right? And so, tell me about yourself. Well, stand in the mirror and talk about yourself, right? Talk about not just your professional experience, talk about some of your personal experiences, talk about some of your hobbies, talk about some of your goals in life, right? And if you want to relate them to your company, right, you can do so. So for instance, the reason why you do all of this, you don't just add, your professional, I worked at so-and-so and I did this for many years. The reason why you don't just do that is because during that question, that's probably the one time you're going to be able to connect in some form or fashion with the recruiter or the interviewer during the interview. And so if you add in maybe some of your hobbies, well, I love to golf on the weekends. Oh, I'm an avid swimmer. Oh, I love to run marathons. Oh, I love video games. Whatever it is, that may be the one thing that connects you to that interviewer, and it makes them sit up a little bit, or it makes them lighten up and say, oh, okay, I like that too, right? You've now made an instant connection. All right, so it's not, that question is a loaded question. Believe it or not, it's not just for you to just go over what's on your resume, right? That's an opportunity for you to add all of that additional wonderful stuff that's not gonna come out during the interview, okay? So, practice. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, my name is Kimberly Mitchell. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an educator for over 20 years. I've worked in urban settings for over 20 years, and I really just love working with children. Some of my hobbies include, I love to swim, I also love to exercise, and I love to travel. One of the things that I want to do in the near future, is that I really would love to learn how to sew, because that's something that I've never learned, but I think that, once I have my little grandchildren, that I want to be able to make their clothes and teach them how to sew. So that's, a little bit about me, right? I mean, I could have connected with someone who likes to swim, somebody who was an educator, maybe their parents were educators, someone who sews, someone who, whatever information that I just gave out in that quick 30 seconds, right? It was a lot. It was a little bit, but it said a whole lot. All right. And so, I grew up in Brooklyn. If I want to add that, I grew up in Brooklyn, moved to Queens, something like that. I attended such and such university, right? Add all that information in, and you just never know where you're going to hit that chord, okay? So, practice your questions. The other tip that I want to give about practicing questions, there's an acronym. It's called STAR, right? This is really important. So I really need you to write this down if you can, or rewind the tape. This is important because the STAR acronym is just a process for answering open-ended questions, right? Where you need to be clear and elaborate about a certain circumstance or elaborate on the question that they're asking. So the STAR acronym, what it stands for is situation, task, action, and result. Now, let's say the interviewer asks you a question like, well, tell me about a time where you had to deal with a challenging coworker. Tell me about that experience and how did you successfully work through that problem, right? And so without the STAR acronym, how do you even begin to answer that question, right? You would probably be all over the place and may not even answer the question in the end. So, STAR, situation, task, action, result. So when I was working at the school, I had been given a project by my principal along with another teacher, and we had to come up with an after-school program, an outline for an after-school program for young people who were struggling with literacy and reading. And so myself and this other colleague, this other co-worker, we were supposed to come up with the outline and have it ready to present to the principal within 5 days so that she can then add it to a proposal she was writing for the school. And so this work was supposed to take place after school for a couple of hours. We were being paid for this work. And again, we were supposed to meet with her at the end of the week to present the project, the results of what we came up with for the after school program. And so every day when it was time to meet with this coworker, she never showed up. And so it was very troubling. I tried to reach out to her. I tried to change the time to meet, her needs, and she never showed up. And the one time that she did show up, she was on her cell phone. And so it left me alone to do the work, because what I was not going to do was show up and not be ready for this meeting with my principal, especially since I was an aspiring leader at that time. And so what I did during the time, set aside time that we were supposed to meet, I sat there and I did the work, and I came up with a plan and that met the needs of all the learners, all the types of learners in our school, so that they could make progress by the end of the year. And so at the end of this 5 weeks, I met with my principal together with the other teacher and presented this project, this program to her, and she was ecstatic. She was very happy and used the information that we came up with for the proposal. And so, but needless to say, I was not happy that I had to do that work by myself. But as a professional, I was not going to have it impact my career, just waiting on somebody who was not going to be serious about the work. And so what I did after that, I requested a meeting with the principal, and I explained to her what happened during that process, so that she was clear that I alone did that work and that the other teacher did not fulfill her responsibilities. And so as a result, my name was added to this proposal, and I was put on the team to actually work on the project. And so I was very satisfied with that. And also, the teacher was actually reprimanded for not doing her part, and which was fine with me, because I just think that it's not right for someone to take credit for another person's work, right? You have to, as a professional, we all have to be professional and do what we say we're going to do, because that's what professionals do. And so as a result, like I said, I was put on the team to actually lead the program, and it all worked out. And the program was a success. It met all the needs of the children, and actually all of the children increase their scores on the state exams by 15% at the end of the year. So that's how I dealt with a difficult coworker at my school. You see? And so by using situation was I was given the situation was my principal gave us a project to do. The task was to meet with that teacher and to create an after-school program for kids who were not performing. The action that I took was that I met, even though she didn't do it. I completed the work even though the person who I was supposed to work with did not. And I requested a meeting with the principal to let her know that that the work that was done only by me, and as a result, I was promoted to actually supervise and lead that program. So by keeping that acronym in your head, you can actually follow those steps. So practice that in the mirror with a question, right? An open-ended question. There are plenty of open-ended questions, practice questions on the internet. You can pick one or pick a few and go through it in your head. Right? STAR, situation, task, action, results. Go through those steps, and I guarantee you, once you sit down for that interview, you'll be able to ace those questions like that.